Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Razer Nommo Chroma. Now these speakers can be found for around £150 in the UK and around $150 in the US. Now if you're wondering what the difference between the Nommo Chroma is and the regular Razer Nommo, I'm just going to quickly list that down for you. The Razer Nommo connects via 3.5mm jack to your computer and doesn't have RGB lighting or a built-in DAC. The Nommo Chroma, the one that we have in front of us over here, has RGB lighting, built-in DAC and connects via USB. What are the benefits of this? Well, one, RGB, obviously it benefits your gaming performance, makes you a pro gamer overnight. Obviously everyone knows that one, including a gaming chair. Believe me, that also helps. And the most important thing is the built-in DAC. The built-in DAC means that you can bypass the internal audio processing of your computer and rely on the built-in DAC on the Razer Nommo Chroma. If you have a very good sound card, you might want to save yourself £50 and get the cheaper £100 Razer Nommo instead, or the $100 Razer Nommo. God, I'm getting so confused between the two. Now, in terms of its competitors, it's actually got quite a few. Just a few to list. It's got the Logitech Z625, found for £130. The Creative Sound Blaster X Kratos for S5 for £130 as well. The Audio Engine A2 Plus, which are £200, so a little bit more, and obviously the Creative Sound Blaster X Katana, which I previously reviewed, for £240. So there's quite a bit of competition around, some bit cheaper, some bit more expensive. Now in terms of the speakers themselves, the most important thing is that they feature two 3-inch drivers, which are full range drivers. What that means is there's no dedicated subwoofer or any tweeters which dedicate the sound processing to these certain drivers. What that means is that the frequency range is 50 Hz to 20,000 kilohertz. Is that important? Well, I'll get into that in the sound quality section in just a bit. Yes, you just have to continue watching and you'll get to know that soon, or you can just skip the video. It's up to you. Now let's talk about the build quality. Now the speakers have got a cylindrical type of shape. I'm just going to bring you closer to the speaker so you guys can see it, and hopefully my camera will focus. The cylindrical shape looks quite cool. They're relatively big in terms of size, but if you see in comparison to a regular bookshelf speaker, they're actually quite small. Now the RGB lighting can be found underneath, and it's quite cool because when you use the RGB, when you have the RGB strip underneath, which you can customize, it's also quite good for visual cues. So the volume over here I can adjust and turn it up and down, and you can see it being adjusted, and the bass, which is on the left hand side, is on the left driver, and that can be also adjusted, and you can see it visually. It's a slight little thing to include, which is nice. The only thing that I felt that was missing over here is, unlike the Philips Hue or rival manufacturers that have RGB lighting as well, is that the Razer doesn't really use the RGB lighting to any other benefit. In other words, if you have a screen which is dark, it doesn't synchronize to have a dark screen, a dark RGB light, or if you are listening to music, it doesn't really vibrate and respond to the music, at least not from my tests. Other than that, there's no RGB lighting at the back, so you're not going to get sort of illumination at the back of the monitor, which in my opinion feels like a missed opportunity from Razer. In terms of inputs, you've got the USB input, which is already in there as well, but then you've got two extra inputs and outputs. One of them is auxiliary input and the other one is headphone. Now the headphone output is quite good because it bypasses the sound, so if you're playing at night, you can quickly plug them in and not have to worry about disturbing anyone in your family or your neighbors. And then the input jack is actually quite cool because you can plug in via the provided 3.5mm interconnect to your smartphone, for example, and simultaneously, which is something that most speakers don't do, play back music. In other words, you can play back music via your smartphone via 3.5mm jack, and then via USB play back your music from your PC at the same time. Things which are missing, you might be wondering: coaxial input, SPDIF, which is optical input, and Bluetooth. Three things which are pretty vital for some people. Those are all missing from this PC system. Now let's talk about the software, and then I'll talk about the sound quality. Now the software is relatively comprehensive, but there's a few missing tricks in my opinion. Just reduce the EV and bring you guys closer, you'll be able to see the software a little better. Now when you launch up Synapsys 3, if I could speak that'd be great, you'll be able to see the front dashboard. Now the front dashboard allows you to completely switch off or mute the speakers, and also have some preset equalizers. Now the preset equalizers are cool. The problem is that I would have liked a custom EQ, and there's no way of getting a custom EQ, at least from what I could see. Now, in case you're wondering, default has the most rounded output. Game has quite a bassy output. Music has a very sibilant, treble-orientated output, and movie has an odd reverb, a weird bassy mids type output, which is not something I would suggest. If I had to pick between the four, I'd choose default. Music is quite good if you're listening to bass-like music, so just bear that in mind. In terms of lighting, if you go into the Chroma tab, you'll be able to see full RGB customization. You can customize per strip or as like a section over here and customize that individually. Really cool thing to have, but as I said, the limitations of its RGB lighting is the fact that you can't have it running alongside any other software, or it's synchronized to anything else. So that's just its flaws, at least in my opinion. Now let's talk about sound quality. First of all, I'm going to output music from the Razer, and then I'm going to output via my own Celestion 3 speaker setup. Now just bear in mind the Celestion 3 setup costs around £200 to £300 for the overall setup, including the amp and DAC and everything like that. But I don't want you to be comparing like for like. I just want you to be listening out for the soundstage, which is something that I'm going to touch upon after the music demo. Now hopefully my camera was able to pick that up, but in that sort of sound comparison you were hopefully able to hear the quite closed and narrow soundstage that the Razer speakers produced. Now it's something that's quite important over here, because if you're going to be gaming, you want positional cues, and that's something that you're not going to get via the Razer speakers. If you're listening to music and you want some instrumental sounds coming from left and right, again, you're not going to get that. What I'm touching upon over here is its soundstage. The soundstage is rather narrow, it lacks width and it lacks depth. Two things which are important when it comes to gaming or when it comes to music listening. Moving on to the sound frequencies, I want to talk about the bass. Now, because of the cutoff of the 50 Hz cutoff, you don't get a sub-bass extension. Previously I mentioned its competitors, and all of its competitors include a subwoofer. You might be wondering why. Well, that subwoofer is the thing that's driving that low frequency response. In this case, the Razer speakers cannot deal with that low frequency response because they're simply not tuned to it. They cut off 50 Hz. From 50 Hz to 20 Hz, everything is lost, and therefore that is your sub-bass. Why should you care about sub-bass? Listening to R&B music, shooting a tank shell on Battlefield 1, no matter what it might be, whatever it might be, or Battlefield 4, whatever it might be, it is going to be important in terms of your actual enjoyment of the speakers. And sub-bass is important to experience. So unfortunately, the Razer speakers are just not capable in delivering any sort of sub-bass, or a very minimal sub-bass extension. In the mid-bass region, I feel that it's actually got a clean and precise slam. It's not overpowering, and neither is it wobbly in any way. In terms of its mid-range response, I feel that there is a slight recessed mid-range, especially in the upper mids. It sounds a little bit odd because as soon as you change the profile from default to music, what you'll find is the sound is a lot better in the upper mids, but then lacks in the mid-bass. Let me just quickly demonstrate that to you. Hopefully you're able to hear that in that quick sound demo right there. There's a massive difference between the mid-range reproduction there. In case you're wondering why I don't use it on music all the time, it's because it's quite sibilant, as I said before, and also it lacks the mid-bass impact that you'd want. Finally, moving on to the highs, they're a little bit rolled off at the top end. Again, benefited when you use it on the music profile, but again, bear in mind that this will be quite sibilant at the top end. So overall, what do I think about the speakers? Look, don't get me wrong, I like RGB lighting and I like the design that Razer have gone for. But unfortunately, its competitors just offer a little bit more. For £130, which is £20 cheaper than the Razer speakers in front of us, we can get a subwoofer. We can get something that sounds pretty narrow as well, but will have the same sort of sound quality. If anything, it'll be a little bit better than what we have. If we pay a little bit more and go for the audio engines or the Creative Katana soundbar, you're going to get a lot more powerful sounds and you're going to get a lot wider soundstage. In all honesty, it's a little bit of a catch-22, but in my opinion, I can't see myself recommending them because its competitors offer just a little bit more for a little bit less. So there we go, guys. I've been Totally Dubbed. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. Make sure you give it a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you would recommend. Alright guys, take care. Bye bye.